Insight. The first ever series to analyze the unexplored aspects and issues of Carnatic music. Dear Rasikas, welcome to the 23rd episode of our Insight series. In the previous episodes, we had started discussing about the Varnam, its structure, form, and I also tried to detail to you about how the Varnam is an important tool towards understanding ragas, the various notes, the gamakas to be incorporated in the various notes, and so on. Today I will take up on the subject of the Charanam and the Charana Swaras. As I told you earlier also, there is a specific method in the composing of a Varnam, and even for Rasikas to be able to understand how this method works, it's not very difficult actually. Even if you don't know music, when I'm going to sing to you now, you'll understand the pattern underlying. This is all about patterns and how they incorporate the patterns in the structure called the Varnam. So this idea of what we call as Charana and Charana Swaras, which is technically also called as Etukada and Etukada Swaras. Here we see that generally in an Aditala Varnam, it usually has 4 Charanas. Most of the Varnams you take and see, you will see that it has got 4 Charana Swaras, that is, where you sing the Charana line, the first Swara passage, again the Charana line, second Swara passage, then the Charana, and so on. Now there are of course a few exceptions I would say here, like the Kalyani Varnam, which has got 3 avartas in the last Charanam. Usually you see that the last Charanam has got 4 avartas, but in this particular Varnam you see there are 3 avartas. Now, what is special about the construction of the first, second, third and fourth Swara in the Charanam? There is a logic behind the way the Swaras are formed in every Varnam. In the first Charana Swara, we see that usually it is of 1 avartanam and it is replete with karvais and gamakam. Karvai means the elongation of a note, that is, the note does not have 1 unit but more than 1 unit. I'll just give you some examples now to show you how this karvai or the elongated note happens in the first Charana. Then in the second Charana, we see that there is an increased rhythmic flow. It is more increased in terms of the rhythm. Of course, there are a few karvais here and there, but then the rhythm is more in an increased pace. And then after that, you see that in the third Swara, there are only Hrisva Swaras, that is, there is no elongated note. And in the fourth Swara, it is more like a summary, where it tries to encompass the entire gamut of the ragam, mostly in the Tarasthai, and then after that it gives a complete round off to the ragam, and then you have like what is called a completeness is given through the fourth Charana Swara. We will now look into one of the Hamsadhvanivarna example I will take here to show you how these 4 things which I was talking about is really incorporated. The first Charanam followed by the first Swaram. See how the elongated karvai notes are incorporated. Hamsadhvanivarna Charanam. Ni sa di tor ne ga na ni sa di tor ne ga na ni pa ga ri sa ni pa ri ni sari ga pa ni sa di. We also look into another example. Let us take the same Todi Varnam we did earlier. Ga ma ga ri ni re sa da ni sa re ga ma da ni ma. Likewise in the Sri Ragam Varnam we see sa ri ni pa ma ri ga ri sa sa ri ma pa ni ka ma koti sundara nanne lokora. I gave you just a few examples, so you can probably go back to the Varnams you have learnt and examine and see how the karvais are a very predominant feature of the first charanam. Now let's go back to the Hamsadhvani itself for us to examine the second, third and fourth charanam. First one we did was ni pa ga ri sa ni pa re ni sa re ga pa ni sa di do ra ne ga na. The second swara now. Ni pa ga ri sa ri ga ri sa ni pa ri ni ga ri ni pa ni sa ri re ga ni sa ri ga pa ni sa di do ra ne ga na. I told you that the third swara incorporates only the Hrisva Swaram and there is no Dirgham. See how it happens here. Ni pa ga ri ni pa sa ni ri sa ga re pa ga ni pa sa ni ri ga ri ni pa ga pa ni sa ri ga pa ni sa ri re ga pa ni sa ni ga ri sa ni pa ga ri ni sa ri ga pa ni sa di do ra ne ga na. The last one, which becomes the longest, sa ni re sa ni pa ga ri sa ri ga pa sa ni pa ga ri sa ri ga pa ni sa ri ni pa ga pa ri ga pa ga ri sa ri ni ga ri pa ga ni re ga pa ni sa ni pa ga pa re ga pa ni sa ri ga ni sa ni ga ri ni pa ni ga ri ni sa ri pa ga re sa ni pa ni sa ri sa pa ni pa ga re sa ri ga pa ni sa di do ra ne ga na ni sa di. So this kind of structure that I was talking about has been incorporated by all the Varnam composers for that matter. It is also very interesting to note that while Kritis, of course Kritis are predominantly composed in 4 talams, that is Adi, Rupakam, Khanda and Mishra Chapu. When it comes to Varnam, we see that almost all Varnams are in the Adi talam and of course there are a few in the Atta talam. Now, in every musical form we see that the tala operates in a very specific way. For example, if you take the Padam, where though we do have a talam, it becomes more like an undercurrent, I would say. Just like, for example, the heartbeat, it is very, very silent and invisible, yet, it's very, very important for the rhythm to happen if the body has to be in proper functioning. So, where you really do not know that it is happening, but yet it is happening. That's the kind of a tala concept that is followed in the Padam. When we talk about the Padam later, probably we could illustrate a bit more elaborately on that. But in Kriti, we see that the talam takes 2 dimensions. That is, the talam is in concurrence to the ragam. Sometimes it is more akin or more it is based on the layam. So there are 2 ways where the talam operates as laya pradhanam and raga pradhanam. What do I mean by this? Let us take an example and see. When we are talking about the raga pradhana aspect incorporated in the tala, we mean that the essence of the ragam, the facets of the ragam, bringing out that becomes the fundamental concept or the fundamental focus. For example, if you take the Shankara Varnam, Yenduku Beddala, Yenduku Beddala Vale Buddhi Yavu Yenduku Beddala Vale Buddhi Yavu Yendu Podu Me Ramaya Yenduku, where the talam just keeps flowing very smoothly, but the main focus here is how to unfold Shankara Varnam. Another example probably you could take is Ramakatha Sudha in Madhyamavati. See how the Raga Bhava becomes important here, though of course the whole composition is built around a talam. Ramakatha Sudha Rasapayana Mokara Makatha Sudha Rasapayana Mokara Jamo. It goes like that. Now, in a kriti itself, the concentration is more on the rhythmic aspect of the talam in some composition. For example, we could take this composition of Swati Tirunal Maharaja in Kannada Ragam. You see how the accent is more on focusing on the tala here, like Kalayami Hridinalda Kamaniya Balam Kalayami Hridinalda Kamaniya Balam Kalayami Hridinalda Kamaniya Balam Kalayami Hridinalda Kamaniya Balam Kalayami Hridinalda. So you saw that the composition itself has got some kind of a rhythmic pattern moving around the Mishra Chapu Talam. Now coming to the Varnam, the Adi Talam. Now why Adi Talam has been chosen for most compositions in terms of Varnam? The Adi Talam first of all has got a perfect symmetry in the sense that when you take it as 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This 8 can be evenly distributed as 4 plus 4, that is the Lagu followed by the 2 Drutams, which together make 4 and 4, 8. Now again the Drutam is also 2 Drutam coming in here. So it is becoming 4 plus 2 plus 2. And that has become also a very universal kind of a talam in the sense that it has got a beautiful symmetry and a balance in the whole structure itself. Now, we will look at some of the opening phrases of the Charanam. This is another very, very interesting aspect I thought I should share with you. I don't know how many of you have really observed this aspect in the Varnam, where you see that when the Charanam starts, that is the Charana line, it most often we see that the Charanam line starts on the Hamsadhvaram of the Ragam. Hamsadhvaram means the very important note of the Ragam, and that which gives life to the ragam, I would say. So that way one of the most important swaram is chosen to start the charanam line, and most often it's also very interesting to see that it is a swaraksharam, in the sense that we will look into some examples here now. In our Hamsadhvanivarna itself, you see the charanam starting as Ni Sa Di Do Ra Ga Ne Ga Ga Na Ni Sa Ti Do Ra is the word that Ni, that syllable falls on the swaram Ni. So it's more a swaraksharam. But the swaraksharam is also important, that Ni becomes a very important note of Hamsadhvani, the Amsa swaram. Like this, let us look at some more examples. For example, if you take Abogi, Varnam, Maruba Hari Korva Jalaga Nura Maruba Maru, that Ma, that syllable falls on the swaram Ma. Now, Ma is a very important Amsa swaram of Abogi. Another example we will take is Dani Matalu Vini in Todi. Dani Ma, the Da syllable falls on the swaram Dha here. If you take the Navaraga Malika, Padasaro Vaja Mulaganumi Padasa. Now here there is an added beauty in the sense that not only the Pa but the Da and the Sa all are in perfect swaraksharam here. Pada Saroja, the Pa, Da, Sa, all of them fall on the respective swaras. Let's see once again. Pada Saro, the Pada Sa that falls on the swaram Pada Sa. So this is again a beautiful imagination of the composer, I would say. Another example we could take is for example Ni Sa Di Do Ra, where in Kedaragalavarna Ni Sa, both the swarams Ni and Sa are swaraksharams here, and Ni again is the Amsa swaram, and that has been highlighted. Or if you take the Kalyani Varnam Ni Lu Barani Mohamayani, where the Ni, the Amsa swaram, becomes the starting point here. And interestingly, we see that the much later composers like our Lalgudi Jayaraman also has incorporated the beauty. For example, if you take the Valaj Varnam Chalamu Se, where the charanam he starts off like Da Sa Dayani Da Sa Da, that Da a syllable falls on the swaram Dha. So this is something very, very important thing I wanted to share with you. Now coming to the, I will just like to conclude now with the mudras that have been incorporated by various composers. In Kriti we see that Tyagaraja incorporated his name Tyagaraja, Dikshidhar, Gurugu and so on. And in Varnam also there have been composers who have incorporated the mudra. For example, if you take our Padnam Subramania Iyer, he has used the mudra Venkatesha, Venkateshwara in his Varnams. One example we can take is Saveri Varnam Girini Velayo Sri Venkatesha. So the Venkatesha mudra comes in here. Or in the Abogi Varnam you see Javamugananelaya Rasesha Chalegin Drayashri Venkateshwara. The Venkateshwara, that mudra is there. Again, if you take the Vasanta Varnam, you see that where Tachur Singarachari, the composer, has used the mudra Partha Sarathi. Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar has used the mudra Srinivasa. That you can see in his Ninnu Kori, popular Mohanam Varnam, you can see Sannutta tanga srini vasa sanu tanga srini vasa. Most often actually while singing I remember we teach the children to break it according to talam as sanu tanga Srinivasa. Actually the Srinivasa is one word here in the sense that that is the mudra of the composer here. And we also see, like for example, Swati Tirunal using the mudra Sarasi Janaba. Then after that we have our Tiruvattiru Tyagayar who uses Sri Tyagesha in his Varnam, or Karur Devudu Ayyangar in the Saminine Varnam in Sri Ragam, he uses his mudra Garbhapuri. And of course in the later composers we see that Dr. Balamurali Krishna used his own mudra as Murali. But interestingly, the later composers like Papanasam Sivan and Lalgudi Jayaraman never had any mudra as part of their, when they composed the Varnam, they did not use any mudra to signify that they have composed it. Like this we see that the Varnam, especially the Tana Varnam, is a very, very interesting and important aspect of our music. And as I said earlier also, it is one form which is very unique in the sense that it is both a part of the Abhyasa Ganam as well as the Sabha Ganam, in the sense that when a student practices music, this becomes a very important tool to understand the ragam. And when it comes to concert also we see that this becomes, the Tana Varnam becomes the opening song in many times. In fact, the great stalwarts always believed that opening with a Tana Varnam gives a pep and some kind of, the brightness to the whole concert. And that's why they would start off with a very traditional Varnam to give the right ambience to the concert, to give the right kind of feel to the concert. With this, I conclude this aspect about the Tana Varnam. Probably I will be looking into the Padavarnam, because many people when I started off Varnam, they said that we do know a lot about the Tana Varnam and what is this Padavarnam and what is its importance in the context of music. So probably we'll look into that in the next episode. Once again, I would like to mention that if you do have any questions or feedback, do feel free to email or WhatsApp to us, because your thoughts on this particular episode as well as the other episodes is what motivates us to think further and bring out new topics and share many more interesting aspects with you. Thank you very much. Namaskaram.